What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and welcome to the 2022 annual substance tier list. Now, of course, last year's tier list was a banger. It got so many more views than I ever expected, so I hope you guys enjoy this year's edition of the drug tier list. Now, we've got a lot of changes coming in, most notably that I stopped doing coke, but there's a lot of other things that are going to be very different on this year's list than any of my previous lists that I've done. Also, I want to point out that we have a new substance on this year's list. Now, I felt that this deserved a mention. I put Delta 8 on the list, and I figured it was okay to put on because I have basically every other type of weed, as well as I have synthetics on there. So, I figured Delta 8 and other derivatives, we'll just lump them into one kind of category. We'll do hemp products, I guess. They've gotten really popular in the past year, so I threw them in, but let's go ahead and go through the list of substances we'll be rating. For those of you guys who are new here, welcome to the party, all right? Every year we rate all our favorite drugs. It's just the way of life here. So, we are starting out. We got Delta 8, Spice, Ketamine, Xanax, Concentrates, Regular Flower, Edibles, DXM like cough meds, cold medicine, Lean, Crack, DMT, opiates are lumped into one category, Mdma, Shrooms, LSD, cocaine, meth, and heroin. Now, some of these drugs, there's a couple that I've never done, but I feel like I know enough people who have done them to rate them, and I haven't smoked crack in a very long time, so my rating on that's probably not going to change much. But either way, you know what? Let's just dive into it. Let's pick a drug on the list, everyone. Let's start off with cough medicine, DXM, right here. All right. So listen. This is a poverty drug, okay? This is like a struggle drug. This is something I would do in high school when I had no weed left, no money, and like my mom was asleep. I'd go raid the cabinet and find this at the back of it, you know? Like a bottle of NyQuil or some shit. And then I'd try to drink it as fast as I could without vomiting because it always tasted terrible, okay? DXM is also not a very fun time. I've seen some people compare it to psychedelics, you know? Some people say that they get almost like a trip out of it. I guess you might be able to say that, sure. However, still, I wouldn't call it a fun trip. I mean, it's definitely not a fun trip. It's kind of like a disassociative in a way. You feel very out of it, at least in my experience. I don't like this substance. As an adult, I have no interest in doing it. I haven't gotten high on any cough or cold meds since I was like maybe 16 or 17. It's been a long time for me. These are going in the D tier. D for DXM. Look at that. Isn't it so fitting? All right, what have we got next? Let's see. Let's talk about crack, okay? So, as I mentioned earlier, I haven't smoked crack since I was 17 years old. I'm 23 now, to give you guys an idea. And also, I recently stopped doing cocaine, which is the close relative, you know, I don't know, maybe close cousin? Either way, I don't know. Father, even? Which one's higher up in like the hierarchy there? Is crack the father or is cocaine? I don't know. Either way, crack was not a very fun time. It lasted for like 2 minutes. I mean, out of all the drugs on this list to abuse, crack has got to be one of the most expensive. I mean, for fuck's sake, dude. You got to smoke that rock every like 5 minutes to keep tweaking, dude. I totally get why crackheads are some of the craziest drug addicts, for sure. I don't know if I would quite put this in E tier, though. I think... No, it's not low D. No, DXM is definitely better than crack. Let's not get too crazy here. E it goes. All right, next up. I just got a big sip of water. I love hydration. All right, next up. Let's see. What have we got? What are we going to pick? Xanax. Now, listen up, okay? Xanax is one of those drugs that no matter how much I personally hate it, you can't deny that it feels good. Right? You can't. I mean, recently, early last year, I went on a pretty hard Xanax binge. It was a pretty hard drug binge in general, but Xanax was one of the things I was really abusing at that point. And I mean, I can't deny that they do feel good. The problem is, I'm not a big fan of drugs that make me feel like a zombie, in the sense that I can't think very clearly, right? Also, Xanax are not only extremely addictive, but they're extremely hard to get off of. Xanax withdrawals are some of the worst of any drug withdrawals. And some people, you know, they don't think about that because the Xanax is pretty common, especially nowadays, right? I mean, you could ask probably 5 different weed guys, and at least one of those guys will be able to help you get some Xans, you know, if not more of them, for sure. Xanax is common nowadays. I can't deny that it does feel good, sure, but it is absolutely horrible. It is super addictive, and getting off of it just sucks. So we're going to throw it into C tier. I also, I was going to do a separate category for Klonopin, but I don't know. I felt that I didn't want to start breaking down all the separate pills, so you could consider K-Pins in there too with the Xanax category. But either way, all right, let's continue. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about lean. Now, I don't listen to Lucky, so I don't drink very much of this. Lean is really expensive. It feels all right. Like, yeah, sure. I've drank it a few times. It, you know, smoke a blunt while you're off it. It feels nice, but it's something I've only done a handful of times in my life because it's expensive as shit, dude. It's not worth it. I'm not willing to pay fucking a couple $100 just to feel something for a little bit, you know? I say that as if I wasn't a raging cocaine addict for a long time, but hey, that's different, okay? That's different. Lean just doesn't feel as good to me, you know? I mean, I don't know. It's a cool drug, sure. It's not the worst thing ever, but I honestly would put it below Xanax even in this D tier just because it's so expensive, dude. I mean, come on. It's 2022. Stop drinking lean, man. All right. Next up. Let's get a little goofy on the list. Let's talk about LSD. Now, this one we saved for last year, but I'm not going to do that this year. The reason being, I recently had a very interesting, borderline bad acid trip that really kind of changed my perspective on it. I still love the drug, I still respect it, but I'm definitely on a bit of an acid break right now. That last trip I had was extremely intense, and I'm good for a little while. I've been doing a lot of acid this past year. I'm on a break right now. Normally, I put acid in S tier. And it is an S-tier substance, 100%, when you think about the good times with it. But I recently had a bad time. And remember that this is a personal opinion, right? This isn't like the overall dead-set presidential goddamn rating, okay? I'm going to put acid in maybe S- to A+. We're going to put it halfway between and maybe come back to it in a little bit. But my recent acid experience was insane. I was tweaking out in a hotel room. It was interesting. But either way, all right, let's move on. Let's talk about meth. Now, meth smokers are fucking tweakers, okay? I already know I'm going to get some good old meth boys in the comments on this video being like, Goblin, listen, man, you're incorrect. My family has smoked meth for generations, and they're all fantastic, right? I don't want to hear it. Everyone I have personally met that smokes meth is a fucking asshole, quite honestly. I don't know what it is about this shit, but it just makes people assholes. However, you know, you can't get some shit done on it. I mean, go to, you know, you got a test coming up, finals, just smoke a little meth, man. It'll work better than Adderall. I mean, you could stay up for days off this shit. I think I'm going to put meth in, ooh. Now, that's a D-tier drug. No, that's definitely a D-tier drug. I'd say crack's a little worse than meth, honestly. But meth is not a bottom tier drug. It's not great, but it's not a bottom tier. You know what is a bottom tier drug? Heroin. Now, this shit, all right? Listen, I know it feels great, obviously. That's why there's so many heroin addicts. You know, from what I've been told about it, heroin, it quite literally feels like heaven, from what I've been told from people that I know that have done it. I've had plenty of friends just completely lose their minds on this drug. It is extremely dangerous. It's almost always going to be cut with some bullshit, and it just destroys your life. This is a true F-tier substance. I mean, even factoring in, sure, it might feel good, there's plenty of other drugs that feel plenty good, and they won't ruin your life like this one. This is easily an F-tier substance, 100%. I've never tried this one, and I never will, for the sole reason of I've heard that it feels so good. That's dangerous. Seeing what it does to people and hearing how it feels, fuck that shit. You will never catch me touching it. All right, let's move along. Opiates. Heroin's little brother, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I decided to group all the opiates into one category because if we broke down all the different pills, if we got here to talk about narcos, talk about perks, talk about oxys, talk about hydros, we'd be here forever, and I don't have the time or energy for that bullshit. I'm stoned and kind of drunk right now, and I don't want to do that, so we're not going to do that. Opiates as a whole category are not my favorite. They give me the shits, some of them make me itchy, and I just don't like the feeling I get on them. I don't really get that same kind of happiness and euphoria that I really enjoy in substances. When I look for a substance that I like, I want to get genuine joy out of doing it. I don't want to be doing it out of like desperation or, to try to feel better about something like I have done before, right? Which is why opiates are no higher than a C tier. I'd even put them in low D tier because they deserve to be below Xanax, honestly, for sure. We might have to do some shifting of the D tier here. Whatever. No, all right. It's not in order, D tier. There's not like a hierarchy to this anymore, okay? Whatever's in a tier is just in a tier, and they're all equal to each other. New rule established. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about a different substance. What have we got? DMT. Now, this is a substance that I have a lot of respect and almost a little bit of fear for. This is one that I haven't tried yet, not because I've never presented the opportunity, or never been presented the opportunity, and not because I don't necessarily want to, but this drug is such a mindfuck that I want to wait until I'm older to experience something like that. I've tried pretty much every drug on my bucket list, with maybe a few exceptions, DMT being one of them. And DMT is something that I just don't want to try yet. I'm young. I don't want to do all of the drug experiences on my bucket list at this young of an age. I would like to wait until I'm older. With that being said, I have quite a few friends who love DMT. I have heard nothing but crazy shit about it, the full-on out-of-body experiences you have, and it intrigues me. DMT definitely deserves some respect, pardon me. However, the other aspect of it is it's definitely not a fun or like a party drug, and those are the kind of substances that I enjoy more, right? With that being said, maybe low A to like high B, maybe in between. No, top B. DMT gets top of B. All right, here we go, boys. Let's talk about shrooms. Now, in last year's rating, I had at that point only done shrooms once. I'm proud to say I've done them again. I really fucking like them, actually. I had a really nice time. I felt really good the last time I did them. I mean, I didn't take a crazy dose. I took like maybe 2 grams worth. Probably, no, a little less than that even. I mean, a very small amount. So I wasn't full on tripping, but I was vibing, and I really am excited to do this again. I am super open to a shroom trip again, and honestly, I'll probably take shrooms again before I take acid again, if I'm being real. Shrooms are fucking dope. I'm going to put shrooms, honestly, we're going to put some respect on their name. I actually have been planning on tripping on shrooms this summer. So yeah, we're going to put shroomies in the S for shrooms tier. The first S tier of the video, I told you guys the rankings were going to be different this year. Shrooms, however, are definitively 100% above acid for me right now. And that's something I never thought I would be saying. I love acid, but I've done it so much. I want to change, It's like when you have like an old parent and they have a midlife crisis and all of a sudden they switch political parties and cheat on your mother, That's like kind of the same thing that I'm going through, except with psychedelics, Fairly comparable. All right. Next up, we're already on the category. Let's talk about MDMA, okay? Let's talk about Molly. Now, I made in the previous year, I made a separate category for Ecstasy, right? I made a point that Ecstasy is different, and it is, but instead of making a separate category for that, I figured it would be better to just explain the difference to you guys. So with MDMA, typically, if you're just getting it crystallized, in a capsule or outside of a capsule, it's typically better quality and more pure. Obviously, always test your drugs. But the thing is, when you buy ecstasy, when you buy X pills, you buy flats, whatever you want to call them, right? They're cut much more frequently. I'm not saying every time, but they are cut much more frequently. So that's something to be aware of. Personally, I always, if I'm going to roll, I always will buy crystal. I'm not going to buy any X pills. I'm not buying any flats. That's not me. When I was in high school, sure, I would do that. But now, as an adult who has experienced stuff and done more substances, pardon me, I can't fucking talk today, dude. I'm fucked up, like I mentioned earlier. Either way, I think it's safe for me to say that crystal's the way to go. With that being said, I haven't been doing much of this drug lately. I used to rate it a lot higher, but it's kind of fallen off for me. This is one of those drugs where every time I do it, it almost feels like I'm chasing the dragon, in the sense that I always think about that first roll and I almost get let down when I take Molly nowadays. Like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, damn, this isn't like my first couple rolls, you know? And then I just get disappointed. So I haven't done Molly in a long time, quite honestly. It's been a while, man. It's been a while. Either way, let's move on to the next substance. Let's talk about flower. Now, I'm going to admit, I have not been smoking much flower lately, ladies and gentlemen. I have a good bit of it right now, yeah, but I haven't really been smoking it. I've been doing a lot more dabs, if I'm being honest. Flower, I don't know. I don't like having to clean my pieces that often. I don't like having to roll up for myself. And I've really lately been appreciating the convenience of just taking a dab, you know? With that being said, flower is still awesome. Obviously, getting stoned, those terps you get, every strain of flower is a new experience. And there's so much variety with flower. It 100% deserves the A out of me. 100%. I believe it was in the same spot last year. And I don't think that really needs to change, honestly. I think flower is just fantastic. It's a fun time, but now that we talked about concentrates, we gotta rate them, and I think everyone knows where I'm putting my concentrates at. Dabbing, at least for me, is the way to go with getting stoned, and I love just how high you can get with dabs. The sky really is the limit with this shit. I remember about fairly recently, I'd say, about like, maybe, oh god, fairly recently, I would say. I don't want to put a date on it. I took a really fat dab with one of my friends, right? We went to a restaurant. We went to a fucking Applebee's. And I went in there, and this dab hit me so hard that I got so many munchies that I was in the fucking Applebee's bathroom yakking in their garbage bin for like 20 minutes. And the garbage bin had holes. So it was a mess. It was really brutal. It was really bad. And that's, you know, some people might think of that as like a bad thing, but I don't, because you know what? I got so fucking high. I was cold sweating and tweaking out in an Applebee's. Flower ain't gonna get me that high. And at the end of the day, I was still stoned and I was laughing about it. I was still having fun. With that being said, concentrates just, they have my heart, man. This is the way to smoke, in my opinion. Truly. Once you start dabbing, you really don't go back. I mean, I've tried to go back. There's been times where I've cut down on the dabs, but they always come back to me. They always come calling. I mean, really, they do. It's just, they're so convenient. They're so much more covert. You can smoke them indoors without being nearly as concerned about smell. I mean, God, I love concentrates. All right. Now, we've got a few more interesting ones on this list. Let's talk about ketamine. Now, last year, during the period where, as I mentioned to you guys, I had a brief drug binge early last year, ketamine was another one of the things that I was doing. And, you know, I gotta admit, man, K is a guilty pleasure of mine. I try not to do this shit very much. It's that horse tranquilizer, okay? I mean, it's from the goddamn vet's office, okay? But this shit in small amounts feels great. The problem is, once you go past that threshold of small amount, you go from, like, being a functioning human to being Helen Keller if she got hit by a bus. Like, absolutely crippled, right? That's one of the problems with ketamine, and that's why it probably deserves B tier and not quite A. Because that threshold is a very thin line that sometimes it's easy to cross on accident. Another thing with that is ketamine is not very good for you. So, that's another reason I'm going to put it in B. I mean, to be fair, Actually, no. All the drugs in my high tiers aren't really bad for you, I would say. I mean, shrooms are natural, man. So, yeah. Okay, we'll roll with that. Either way, next up, let's talk about where's my spice. Give me that K2, baby. Do I even need to say anything about this? Does anyone even smoke this anymore? Is this an outdated thing? Should we just take that off the list entirely? Now that I think about it, I don't recall the last time that I encountered someone who actually smoked this shit. We'll leave it on there just for like almost like a nostalgia's sake, you know? This shit's awful. I would get headaches every time I smoke synthetics. This was yet another poverty substance, kind of like DXM. You do this out of desperation. You don't do this because you really want to. F tier, wholly deserved. Next up, edibles. Now, some people might really disagree with this opinion, but I just, like, don't get where I want to be off edibles. This isn't necessarily an opinion. This is more how I am. I just have never been one to really feel edibles. So when I eat edibles, I have to eat absurd doses. I mean, I'm talking 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 milligrams of THC, which, by the way, we have videos of me doing that on the channel. So go watch those. But either way, I'm not a big edibles guy because I can't get just like a chill level of stoned with them. It's either I don't feel them at all or I'm absolutely on a rocket ship. And I have to be in a very specific mood to want to get to that kind of high. I eat RSO pretty much exclusively when I do edibles. I don't ever actually eat like brownies or anything like that or any of the actual food kind of edibles. But, you know, I personally am just not a very frequent edible user. I'm going to put them in B. For me right now, they're not really up there with flower or the concentrates. B is fair. All right, next up. Let's talk about cocaine. Now, I was saving this for last because of a very specific reason. In my last tier list, I mentioned that I really enjoyed coke, and at the time of that tier list, I was still actively doing a lot of it. I no longer do coke. I actually haven't done a line of coke in almost a year now. It's been about 8 or 9 months for me. It's been a very long time since I've done any cocaine. So, hey, I'm pretty proud of that personally, but coke is a bad one. Coke is extremely expensive. It's really terrible for you, and honestly, after a while of consistent use, you get to the point where you really are chasing the dragon, and you start to feel uncomfortable from the high, but you keep doing it because your body's just telling you to. Like, I wouldn't even be feeling good. I would be sitting there cold sweating, tweaking out, my heart's racing, and I'm doing more coke not because I feel good, but because I'm coming down, and the come down is even worse than the high. So I just have to pick and choose. I have to fight my battle there, right? Coke is a substance that last year I believe I ranked in A. However, we're taking this one down a couple notches, actually. Cocaine's going to the C tier. This is one that I don't like anymore. I'm honestly very glad I stopped doing blow. This shit is just awful for your bank account, for your body, everything. It's just not great. It is a fairly decent weight loss tool, though. But all right, either way, next up, Delta 8. Now, like I said in the beginning, the reason I included this on the list is because it is in the weed family. It is a hemp-based product that does get you high. And we're talking not just about Delta 8, but the other derivative products, too. I'm lumping them into one category here. So we're talking THCO, HHC, Delta 8, Delta 10, THCP. All of those are going to be lumped together. They are different experiences, but I still feel that I can rate them all in one category. Now, I understand why some people, especially those in illegal states, buy these. I personally am not huge on most of them right now. However, I think that because they're so new, they have a lot of potential to get really crazy with it. Right now, all of these hemp-derived products are in their infancy. I mean, the bill that made these products possible was only passed a few years ago. So these companies are just now starting to come out with decent products. And, you know, there's some really awesome stuff on the market that I've tried, right, on this channel even. But, you know, with when it comes to this Delta 8 stuff, it's not something that I would pick over a regular high. However, if you're someone who maybe you can't smoke regular flower for whatever reason, or you live in an area where it's hard for you to get good weed, I 100% get the appeal. And also, I have gotten pretty nicely, I wouldn't necessarily say stoned, but high. You know, I've gotten a nice, comforting feeling off a lot of these products before. I'm not putting them in A, I just dragged them over there. I think we're going to put these in low B. These have a lot of potential. Edibles are definitely ahead of them. We'll make that distinction right now. But you know, I personally think that this stuff does have some potential. So, either way, there's my substance tier list for the day. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Get ready for the next year's drugs tier list, ladies and gentlemen. We're doing it annually. This is the 3rd substance tier list. You guys know how it goes. But either way, thank you all so much for supporting. Drop in the comments your tier list and let me know if you disagree or agree with anything on here. Once again, I'll kind of go through what we got. So we got shrooms and concentrates in S. We have LSD in the lower S, upper A tier, wherever you want to put it. Flower in A. We got DMT, Molly, Ketamine, edibles, and Delta-8 / other hemp-derived products in B. We've got Xanax and cocaine in C, DXM, lean, meth, and opiates in D, crack in E, and heroin and spice in F. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, gamers.